So I'm here today about to talk about a project I'm working on. I won't say framework because we heard what emotions it can create. So it's short info about me. I'm Zaiste. This is my website, zaiste.net. I'm also on Twitter, but I'm not very social on internet. I prefer to be social in real life. I organize a small conference. It's been like 10 years. It's called PolyConf. It's like TED, but for programming. The idea is to put different programming languages together and to seek inspiration and to never see horizons, to never see boundaries, but always see horizons and to exchange, explore. I highly invite you. We just organized this year edition in Paris. We plan to organize the next one probably in French Riviera. And I just came back from a meeting from France here in London, and we will be organizing a small one-day PolyConf satellite event here in London. So it'll be probably October. So if you'd like to get involved, let me know. I'd be happy to work with you guys. I also work on a side project, and the idea is to help organizers to find quality speakers. So if you're interested, let me know. Okay, so Huncwot. So I was looking for a traduction of the word. So it's like a perisher, rascal, or scallywag in English. I'm not sure if the words are good, but basically it's about somehow who's naughty, but in a positive way. So this is Huncwot. And I won't tell you what it is. I will just give you examples, how it looks like, and we will try to maybe together have this intuition what this tool can do and help you with. So let's start with the core. So this is the basic Huncwot application. We just require it. We just instantiate the app, and we create a very simple routing. So as you can see, this is a web application, and probably this is some kind of framework. But there are some interesting things. There's only one parameter for the handler, which is underscore, because we don't really care about this. And there is this implicit return of a string. So let's dig deeper. We have some helpers. We have some wrappers. For example, if we want to create a 200 response, we can just import it, require OK function. And we can pass regular data structure, like an object, JavaScript object. And this will make that it will return a 200 response, HTTP response of the proper type, which is application JSON. OK, but you may ask, if I want to have more flexibility regarding responses, well, this is easy because responses are objects, regular data structure in JavaScript. It's not something fancy. You don't use getters, setters to create that. It's very declarative. So you have a lot of power. You can use regular ways of transforming this data structure available in JavaScript. So as you can see, we just say return a body with this status code and with those headers. It's very simple. It's very straightforward. So how about this mysterious input parameter? Well, it's just a request. It's nothing fancy. It's not a context. It's just a request. So as you can see, the handlers always accept requests. It's not very well visible, but handlers are functions. We could argue that they are pure functions. So there's like some kind of functional approach here. They always take requests as input, and they always return response as output. It's very simple. So this idea was, I got inspired because I was working a lot. I still work a bit with Clojure and Clojure script. So this is the idea that I've stolen from Ring, which is a very interesting web application in Clojure. So I encourage you to check this out. So as I said, responses also, they are just objects, regular data structure in JavaScript. They are declarative. And if you want to have a response, you just have to define the body and status code at least. You can define more. OK, but this kind of tool wouldn't be very useful just to return strings and data structures to be converted into a JSON response. So we need more to have a proper view layer. And it's possible in Huncwot as well. So we have this function called page. We just require it. We just pass some bindings to our template, and we generate HTML as a stream. So as you can see here, I'm not defining where the template is located, because Similar to Rails, Huncwot is using some conventions. And I'm trying to find this sweet spot between like magic, which I don't really like, and usefulness. So for example, to be easy to understand, but at the same time not to feel too magic. So in this case, it's just about the location of the template. But there's some nice things we can do with that. We can import another function called exip, and we can combine functions in a mathematical sense. So for example, we have page function, which is the inner function, and we have exip function, which is outer function. So we return HTML, which is then exipped, and return to the client, because as we said before, everything we return from the handler is our response. Very simple. So this is the template. This is a proposition for a template. But you may say, well, I like HTML. It's easy to work with designers. They understand HTML, but I prefer this indentation-based approach. That's fine with Huncwot. You can just convert it, and you can use both this approach and this approach in the same project at the same time. And all that is possible because of this wonderful library, which I recommend you to check out, which is called Marko.js. It's from software engineers at eBay, and they created something truly amazing. It's a library, it's a template language, and we'll explore further what it can do. So for example, regarding benchmarks, you should never trust benchmarks, and you should never base your, you should never choose library because of the benchmark, but it gives a nice perspective. So this is comparing minified and exip version between React and Marko. So for example, you can see that Marko is 4 times smaller than React. Okay, so just to sum up, we have pages in Huncwot. They allow us to generate HTML. We use Marko as template language. The content is generated on the server. And we have this small convention which says that if you put anything like a template in pages directory, it gets, you can use it without specifying the full path. Okay, so going further, model. So we have now view. We should think about how to interact, how to get the data from our data store. It's very straightforward. So if we imagine we have a database and we have a table called widgets, we can just do await DB, and this is like a regular select star from widgets. But you may say, well, I would need more flexibility here. Well, it's possible. We can just define, we can chain functions. We can say, well, I'm only interested in the columns ID and name. How about finding something? It's also possible. And as you can see, I'm not using strings here. I'm using regular JavaScript data structures. So I'm passing an object which defines how to find this piece of data I'm needing. Inserts, also the same approach. I'm just passing the object. I can also pass an array, and it will be transformed to the proper SQL query. As you can see, I'm not adding a new abstraction here. We are using plain old vocabulary we all know, which is SQL. So I'm using words like insert, where, etc. So it's similar. We can chain those. We can say, well, find me a piece of data and then update it. OK, so models are just plain. We interact with the database using plain old SQL. We don't need ORM or any of that sort. This all is based on a wonderful library called Node.js. And again, there is a small convention which says that all models should be in a models directory. OK, so we have view. We have the data. We should connect somehow those two. And we'll be using controllers for that. Controllers are just functions. And they have some proper names, some imposed names. So for example, to read a single element from a database, there's a convention which says you should use a read function. As you can see, this is an async function. And here we can plug in where the 3 dots are. We can plug in our database query, for example. We can have another function, which is add. And there are like 5 functions which are predefined. And they read like bread. So I think it's better to have. I think bread is more tasty than like the crude, unpleasant thing we used to use. So yeah, let's use bread. Let's eat bread. Okay, so controllers. Again, let's sum it up. We use them to expose our data. They are somehow standardized, but it's a very like thin layer of standardization. And again, there's a convention which says that they should be located in a directory called controllers. Okay, but you may say now, well, it's interesting, but what you're saying is like old approach to programming. It's like arguing that we should do the server-side approach when the content is generated on the server side and then pushed to the client. Well, I started with the lesser ideas. Those ideas I presented, this is not very important. The more important thing in Huncwot and in Marko.js is this component-based approach we are all using, I suppose. So using components is more easy way to think about constructing user interfaces. And a component is a way to put behavior and styling together for a markup. So this is also possible in Huncwot. So for example, let's imagine this piece of UI. There are some interesting things happening here. For example, when you define classes, you don't have to say class equals something like that. You can use just selectors. This is thanks to Marko. So we can say like h1.title. We can combine them. We have a special syntax to read the state of the component. And we can attach handlers to possible events that can occur. This is the part which allows us to define the styling. So this is almost exactly the same as in Vue or even React. And this is the part which allows us to attach the behavior. So again, similar to those two tools, there is some kind of predefined methods, lifecycle methods, which are available. And it works exactly the same. So I think I would argue that declarative approach to UI representation is better, and this is possible with Huncwot. On top of that, there is I'm using Redux. So you have already pre-configured Redux with Huncwot, and you can just if you already use that with your React applications or elsewhere, you can already start. You'll be familiar with that. There's router. We've seen a server-side router, but there is also a client-side router, which is already integrated into Huncwot. You don't have to configure it. You don't have to find the best one. It's already there and it works. So summary, Huncwot is, on one side, it's just a replacement for Express or Core. It's a unified full-stack solution. We can build very easily RESTful APIs, and I'm currently working, because I'm quite a fan of GraphQL, I'm also working on making it very easy to just start very easy from the scratch to build a GraphQL API. It's a batteries included approach. So you have everything you need. You don't have to worry about different libraries, how to put them together. Will they work together? Will they be maintained, etc. We can build primarily SPAs, like single page applications, but we can also build regular applications as well. There are some conventions. I try to provide solid defaults. There is, similar to Rails, there is this command line tool which allows you to have this streamlined experience workflow where you can like create things very easily. And it's 100% JavaScript. So yeah, yet another web framework. So let's maybe take a moment of silence. Some awkward silence. Yeah, okay, let's move on. So here is the definition I was planning to give at the beginning, but well, it's at the end. So this is a minimal Node.js web framework. It's built for the ES Next because I'm in love, I would say, with ES6, ES7. And it's built in mind with batteries included approach. So you can ask, why did you do that? Why another framework? The first reason is that I was doing a lot of like mentoring, and I was doing a lot of workshops, React, Clojure, Clojure script, Vue.js, Angular. And people, especially beginners, started asking very interesting questions. And building this tool, I was thinking, maybe I will just create something which will allow them to better understand the principles of web programming. So it's not something that I are hoping you will be using, or it's like suitable for production, because it's not. Sorry, it's just a toy. But that was the reason, the primary reason, teaching experience I had, and all those questions people asked me. The other thing, the minor motivation was, we have so many choices right now. And when you want to build your React applications, you have many libraries. You don't know which one to choose. Sometimes you choose a library, but it's got which is no longer maintained after a few months, and you have to worry. You have to fork it, etc., etc. So there is this nice quote by Erin, which says that everyone wants to write reusable code, but nobody wants to reuse anyone else's code. Yeah, so there is a truth in that. I also recommend you to read a wonderful article by Jessica Kerr called Reuse, which is somehow related to what I'm working right now, and it gives a nice perspective on that matter. Okay, so the goal is to have a single library with all modules you need for everything, like a one repository, one NPM module, which is developed in a coherent way. And that's the key difference here. And I'm trying to focus on the programmer's productivity first. So I'm trying to make programming more approachable, more easy, especially for beginners. So I don't want to deal with explaining why we need to choose this or that. I will just provide defaults. Because at the beginning, it's not that important. If you're building something like for large scale, maybe that's something you should care about. But at the beginning, or even in the mid stage, it's not that important. And I'm looking for feedback. I wanted to just bounce off the idea of you, and try to work on some community conventions along the way. And some buzzword, yeah, it's a full stack, 100% JavaScript solution. So thank you very much. This is the GitHub if you're interested, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.